right, well, today on today's Top Talkers, we're talking about Hockey Alberta announcing that it will do away with body checking for 11 and 12-year-olds. That's the Pee-wee players. That is going to take effect in the fall. And there are other jurisdictions looking to do the same thing. We're going to talk about that this morning with our panel. And today we have Rick Gibbons from 580 CFRA, Alison Sandor also from CFRA, and our own Jeff Hopper jumping in.
Hello.
All right, body checking for Pee-wee. We're talking 11 and 12-year-olds. Is it a good idea to take body checking out of the sport?
I think the short answer is yes and no. Hockey is a broad participatory sport. And that particular age group, of course, is the age of puberty for kids. And so you get that wide range in size. And I think it can be an intimidating thing, particularly for a smaller player. And what you don't want to do is discourage that player from going on in hockey. So I think in the House League program, absolutely take it out. This is about, getting as many kids involved as possible. But when you're streaming into the more competitive levels, I think you have to leave it in. I think it's part of the game.
Alison, your take?
A few weeks ago, we talked about on Top Talkers how some leagues, I think it was Ontario Soccer League, not keeping score anymore so that the kids could develop their skills. And I think that there's no problem with taking out hitting. I mean, look at women's hockey. There's no body checking in women's hockey. It's interesting to watch.
They're saying that this is going to reduce the number of injuries, in particular concussions, which, as we know in hockey, is a risk. It's a dangerous part of the sport.
Yeah, I want to build on Rick's point a little bit about puberty, but also through your childhood, the children born in January and February are much larger than those typically born in December. So there's a couple of football leagues in the States for young people that go by age and weight class. So all 14-year-olds play together unless you weigh too much, then you can move up to play against a 15-year-old. So it's more about your weight so that you've got an even playing field. But I think it's important if you're going to end up playing hockey for for the long haul, to learn how to hit, with lighter, smaller bodies. You're seeing. I don't think the injuries would be as big as if you just start hitting when you can really do some damage.
But Mark Sutcliffe on 580 CFRA this morning, when I was chatting with him about this issue earlier on our show, he brought up a great point that I thought was interesting. If they're not learning it at a younger age, and then they go up into Bantam and then junior, when it will be allowed, they have not developed that skill. Is that going to be then detrimental to them? Are they going to? Is the reversal going to happen? They're going to end up being hurt even more?
Absolutely. I coached this level for many, many years. I had two boys go up through minor hockey, so I feel I have a lot of sort of up and close personal experience with it. The key to this is proper coaching. Most kids go into body contact with very little, if any, appropriate readiness for that sort of new element of the game.
Right.
So I think if you coach kids properly when they're smaller, when the body contact isn't that great, then they're going to be better prepared.
So
when they're 15
using
or
it as a
16 years old.
skill, teaching them how to properly body check without, if they're doing it the right way, should there not be a concussion then?
Well, look, it's a physical sport.
Right.
Just as football and rugby are physical sports. You can't completely remove that. Body contact will always be part of the sport. So you can't completely eliminate the possibility of concussion, but you can certainly minimize it by teaching it, as you say, as a skill as opposed to an intimidating factor.
But what about breeding the next generation of hockey players that are more concerned with skills and passing the puck than body checking? I mean, I've never been so embarrassed to say I'm from Montreal when I saw the game the other day and it was a full-on line brawl and then all the checking and the hitting and people being injured. I mean, we all saw what happened to Lars Eller and his face on the Ottawa Sun the next day bleeding.
But none of that has anything to do with body checking.
Yeah,
you're still hitting.
We have to be careful about talking about physical contact versus fighting, because when you look at the NFL, lots of physical contact, they do not put up with fighting.
Well, the fighting is different. What happened in the fighting is different from what happened to Lars Eller.
Yeah,
he was body checked and passed out as he fell and smacked his face off the ice. There came all the blood. So he was checked.
Right. Yes.
And it was deemed a clean check.
It was also deemed a suicide pass, and that's the kind of thing that a young kid can serve to learn at a young age about where the danger zones are in body contact, and you can really go a long way towards minimizing significant injuries if you coach in that manner.
If we look at it just from the health perspective, though, and in Nova Scotia, I mean, it is banned in Quebec, and it's now going to be banned this fall in Alberta. And actually, they did a study that compared Alberta to Quebec. And the research came out last year that showed there was a 3-fold increase in the risk of injuries for Pee-wee players who check in Alberta compared to those in Quebec, where body checking is not allowed. So it just showed that when they are able to check, the injuries are there. And if you look at it from a safety perspective, should it be removed for the sake of just knowing that your kids are going to be safer on the ice?
Are you going to be safer? Like what? And so if you're talking about 11 and 12-year-olds, do we not want our 14, 16-year-olds to be safe as well? I think you're going to end up having to do it like once they're an adult and can make their own calls, then they can go into body checking. And by then, I think Rick was saying that you don't have those built-in skills of keeping your head up and making sure you know where you are on the ice. I just think there's a big risk there. There's a balance that needs to be.
So perhaps if they are going to keep it in the sport at all, they have to keep it in even when they're younger to teach them properly.
That's how I feel.
Teach them properly.
It depends on if you want hitting in hockey or not.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, hitting is part of hockey. I don't think you want to take that out. I think for a typical 12-year-old who will never play above house league hockey, it's better that he play in a program that has no contact, or at least no body checking.
Okay.
There will always be hockey contact in hockey. But for the elite performance athlete who aspires to play junior hockey, aspires for NCAA, and maybe even beyond, you have to give that individual the opportunity to learn that skill at the appropriate level. There's a reason why we don't have 7- and 8-year-olds play body checking. There is a reason why they have 12-year-olds. So you just have to pick your spot. And I don't think it's necessarily inappropriate where it is now. For the kids who are at the higher end of the game, who are destined to go on to play at a higher level, they should be learning it at an appropriate age.
And they'll learn it one way or another if they're going to move on in their career for hockey. Okay, thanks very much to our panel. For Alison, Rick, and Jeff, thanks very much, guys.